Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Unified Proving Ground circuit. As we're here, we got to it. Game number 3, and wow, Maryville had a good statement to make there.
Yeah, I was only
Yeah,
a
I think,
little bit concerned about the late game that time.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I was not expecting them to draft the type of comp they drafted, because it's a pretty high execution comp, I'd say, poke comps in general. But, I think they completely blew them out of the water. It was like,
Yeah.
all 6 turrets, just gone at 18 minutes. All the first tier 2s. Going off the draft for EG, like they picked up Jarvan Thresh, the 1-2. They picked up what Maryville played the last game. It was kind of just the whole game for EG was just kind of tragic, honestly.
Yeah.
I think they kind of had the right idea. Like they were fighting early level 1, but I really feel like there was a like miscommunication or just some sort of planning just went off because in the opening replay what we're about to show is Jarvan and the Thresh lane and the Nautilus lane, they both blew their flashes level 1, and both junglers were also pathing bottom level 1, and they eventually both burned their flashes and they take an early recall, and now it's Aphelios Thresh's turn to stack up the wave, but Thresh has no flash here. It's just Odd Orange, he stays, he's like, oh, I finished my full clear, I'm gonna pick up another camp here as well. This Thresh has no flash, it's just a free hook into a kill.
Yeah.
And that kind of just like snowballs things, as MU, they picked a very high execution comp, and getting this gold in the early game is just like very important for them.
And you saw how the early gold continued to snowball here, as we do have ourselves yet another replay. And Smats, we got to see right off the first blood. This happened a minute after the first blood, and it's just Odd Orange on a rampage, it feels like.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you guys are following Cubby on Twitter, but he posted a pretty banger meme that is very relevant right now, which is that Scuttle Crab is out, Gromp is in. We fight for Gromp now, for junglers, and as we're about to witness, Perry
Perry's just trying to counter what Nidalee just did bottom, Like,
Yeah.
oh, he just killed my Thresh, I'm gonna take this Gromp.
Oh.
Yoink! He gives the thumbs up, he's tilted, and it just gets worse.
Yeah, it gets worse.
Oh.
And
It's
it just
a
gets
bad
worse.
time.
It just gets worse.
And it's not over, as you said. It just keeps getting worse.
Yeah. He gets on with the EQ and then gets flashed on. Odd Orange just like completely taking over the entire game from here. And then if you watch Odd Orange and Niles play as a duo after that, you'll know what's about to happen in the top lane as well. Just so much destruction from this player, Odd Orange. Really on one on this Nidalee. Very, very impressive performance from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's disgusting. It's disgusting, right? You know what's happening. You always see Shady moving on the map. But then we go back down to the mid lane here, and it gets a bit feisty because it's just not that. Get back is telling Leo that you need to get back, and he took complete control of this mid lane.
Right. The Zoe was insane this game. You could really feel that Get Back is a lot more comfortable on this champion than the Akali, and that's not me like really making a dig at his Akali. I think the team fights could have been a little bit better, but there's really like nowhere you can go up from this. Like, look at this. He's actually flashing underneath the turret, landing all of his skill shots, gets him with the ignite. Just a beautiful solo kill, and it really sets up Get Back to be this really daunting presence in the rest of this game, where if you get hit by a bubble, you're just dead.
Yeah, it was just bubble and just artillery strike, just pinpoint the location, and that person's dead. So honestly, the Zoe performance was really good, and it was really what they needed, especially in a comp with very little CC. I mean, they had Nautilus, but uncleansable CC. I guess only the bubble. So it's like the carries didn't want to take cleanse. So when they did get hit by it, it was just certain death.
Yeah, it was just all she wrote, and then this spilled over, right? We have gone all the way through our replays. We started in the bot lane, we went top side, we went to the mid lane. Let's return back to the bot lane, as then it was just the Maryville tactic. All right, Shady, you've gone to every single lane, back to bot lane. Let's get this game going. And Asama, I would love to hear you walk us through this, as it was just an overload here.
Yeah, so I mean, EG, they just dove Jinx, I believe, earlier, and they kind of denied her a lot, and you know, they're at one plate, so you know they're finally gonna clap back here. And Aphelios is like the only saving grace of this whole comp at this point, and he just gets hooked. His Gale Force gets like stuck between the turret. Good Nautilus hook, bubble hits, and then I mean that's all she wrote. You know, the Herald comes down. They get like 2 crashes off, and it was so sad because I was like, dang. EG is like probably out of this game, or like they really need hope, or it was like a good dive, and then they just stacked 3 waves and they killed the only saving grace of that team. I mean, actually, Sketch was still popping off after. The game was,
oh my god,
should have been really clean. Like it should have just been a complete stomp, but obviously it's, you know, it's amateur. Sometimes you get a little back and forth. I mean, in every region, so it's never as clean as you want it to be. Sketch was putting in some really big damage as Aphelios. Sadly, he's just outranged, you know, just one bubble is all that was needed, and I mean, still a good performance, you know, like hopefully he can bring that into game 3. Pretty good comeback victory though from Maryville. I think it was like exactly like what you needed, and it was just such a clean execution of a pretty hard comp to pull up.
And we have a treat right here for your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, as talking about our
A
replays
lesson.
and whatnot. We pulled it. It's a lesson learned here. Friendship
Scuttle
ended
Crab
with
is
Scuttle
out.
Crab.
Gromp
my
is the new
friend.
crab. Look at him in all of his glory,
Hey, I'd rather have 2 Gromps than 2 Crabs.
for sure.
Kidding me?
Oh, we're making it bigger.
Enlarge, enhance. That's what I'm talking about. All of its glory right in front of your
Zoom
eyes.
and enhance on the Gromp.
I can see the pixels. Talking about it though, we're going into a game number 3 here, gents. We are going into a big game between these two, and 2 different style games, right? Both games had a completely different ending to them. How are y'all feeling? We're going into game 3, and there's a bit of spice inside the series.
Well, I would say that I'm feeling really good about Maryville moving forward with all that momentum built up by Odd Orange playing super well, like completely on a tear in that early game. He's not playing 3rd game though, so we have a completely. We have like the subs coming in. So Odd Orange, who just had a crazy pop-off game, being subbed out for Kind Jungle. Also Evan RL in for the bot lane position. And, you know, I definitely respect that Maryville are using all of their players. I just think that this is like the most confusing time to do this, because they just popped off. Both players just popped off, especially like Azog in the late game. Like his early game was definitely tough. He was having a rough go of things, getting punished super hard. But they weren't playing to bot lane; they were playing the top lane, so that makes sense as AD carry. The jungle one just doesn't make any sense. So I'm really wondering what Kind Jungle and Evan RL are going to do in this game.
Yeah, personally, from my experience, I feel like you want to ride the momentum. If anything, you'd expect this change after the game 1 loss. I'm not really too sure. I mean, we'll just have to see. Maybe they got some like secret picks they want to pull out, or maybe it's just to give their players more stage time or something. So, not too sure on that, but we'll see how they do.
Evan is a player we've seen time and time again, has been ever so oppressive, and Kind Jungle known to be very aggressive. So I am very curious on exactly what the game plan could possibly be for them. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to find out what that game plan is. Our casters, Dia and Rudude, are going to go ahead and get us ready for game number 3. Gents, take it away.
Welcome back, folks, and Travesty, you pose an excellent question. What on earth is this game going to look like? With Maryville having such a massive pop-off performance last game, and EGP now on the verge of being eliminated from the Unified Proving Grounds themselves. Rudude, I gotta know what your thoughts are. If we're taking out 2 members of Maryville that both performed exceptionally last game, and putting in 2 others, what are we getting out of it?
You know, I understand some actually sentiment. I'm going to take a different view though, and I think that coming into this one, that with now Kind jungling, he's got 2 fresh tapes on his opponent, on Perry, to see what he's been doing, knowing exactly what he's going to be doing. Where Maryville on the other side of things, or Maryville themselves with all that knowledge, that's something that EGP just aren't going to have, right? Yes, they'll have previous tapes on what Kind Jungle has been looking to do, but I also think that the way that Maryville won their game was through a very aggressive style of play that they weren't going on, I don't think, in this 3rd game, right? That's something that you would just ban away. Like the Nidalee ban seems like something that would have come through, and yes, you would have drawn a ban that opens up some slight draft advantages, but I think swapping to Kind and trying to take a different style of approach here is something that I'll be happy about for Maryville. Between the 2 junglers, kind of more reserved style jungle, and I think that fits well into Perry as a matchup, because in game 1 we saw the sort of power that Perry could have on the Zinza way, kind of ran away with things a little bit, and I think that if Kind can keep that enemy in check, keep Perry in check in terms of where he's going to be, and keeping the CS fairly similar, those items not quite as contrasting, I definitely think that for Maryville this is a good time to substitute out. And Evan as well, even if he's not warmed up, this guy is absolutely cracked, right? And I think that as an ADC, it's more than appropriate to take Azog's place, just as a quick hat to Evan.
Yeah, Evan is absolutely insane, and well, let's see how well he gets prioritized right now, because having seen an Aphelios lobby for Sketch again, we are just getting a solo and isolated bot lane. I say, oh, Aphelios, that seems really fun. That seems really entertaining to play against. Let's not interact with it at all. And Ziggs the perfect champion in order to that. However, interaction seems to be rife in the jungle, where we're picking up our very first Lee Sin of the series.
Yeah, so we got banned away in game number 1, and then we saw the Jov and the Nidalee get traded in game number 2. Nice to see that Lee Sin here, fairly high priority, given that it has slipped through the bans. We'll have to see if Perry has got something up his sleeve, or whether it is just going to be that Jov as an answer here to the Lee Sin. But obviously the bot lane, typically you'll see rounded out here in the second, or in this next set of picks. Graves coming through for EGP now. Perry has played a lot of Graves in his time, but I imagine that this is also, or we know as well, that this is also a flex pick that could potentially go to Firesalt up in that top side of the map. So keeping their cards close to their chest for the time being. EGP with first pick on supports. Typically we've seen Thresh taken, something like the Nautilus as well in this position, so we'll have to see what they opt for.
I'd really like to see a Nautilus, especially if they want to unlock the option to roam once again. Thresh definitely a little bit more sticking around for safety, and Nautilus, naturally, actually going to get locked in, providing a lot against the Lee Sin as well in terms of lockdown against a relatively mobile skirmishing jungler. Now being able to back up your own jungler, hopefully EGP aren't losing out 100% of the time.
Oh, okay, so they just go for the Jace straight up before it gets banned away. I was thinking that this should be just a Leona if they're trying to match here, but they take the Jace before it gets banned away in the second set of picks. Again, a very happy pick from my end anyway, to at least see that one be taken away and taken into Niles' hands once again, as he performed very well in it last game. Wasn't the shining star of the composition, but did admirably and did his job, fulfilled it very nicely. I expect EGP now to just pile bans into that bot lane, get rid of Rakan, Leona, 2 roaming supports that are going to be facilitated by the Ziggs to roam around across Summoner's Rift and set up the team for success, because if you're able to take some of those away, then you then push down into lower tier supports. We're looking at things like Braum, for example, Maryville to pick up, so we'll have to wait and see. Maryville on the other side, they're just taking away picks that can't easily get dove in the top lane and give Niles a bit of an easier laning phase.
You know what, that's really what things seem to have been about for Maryville. They're trying to pick Niles the best matchup possible in most scenarios, and now with a little bit of a mystery, just keeping him safe. They take away that Camille as well, the Rakan, of course, the next expected ban, and Rudude, you called in perfectly. God, I gotta appreciate you for that. But with Maryville having their 4th pick available, they're gonna go for the pike. Braum, who? We are going full aggression right now, and I love it.
Beautiful. Okay, and that just, it adds to all the bans that EGP put down. They were like, okay, these are really good roaming supports. Guess who else is really good? It's Pike. But, okay, this would be a good answer for the jungle. We'll wait for it to get locked in. But for a Pyke matchup, this is just, again, you're facilitating roams. You can put those Moby Boots on, get going very early. We got more spice here, dear. These guys are not messing about. The Kayn locked in the jungle, and the answer to, or what is not even an answer, it's going to be a blind pick in the mid lane for EGP. Let's see what they go for.
Let's just go with Vex. Just do it. Vex is so good right now, but you know, Syndra ultimately also. I could see it. I'd like to see a Vex. I also
Dia's
like
internal monologue just spilling out.
I also liked the decision between the two E-boys, the Kayn and the Viego. They ended up, of course, getting the one that is a little bit harder to make work nowadays, but against the squishy composition of Maryville, I don't mind the Kayn nearly as much. Maryville had the opportunity to pick themselves up a hyper-scaling mid laner in the Victor, and I also wouldn't pass that up, but I am left a little bit lost here with the identity of the EGP and Maryville drafts, because there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of pop-off potential, but what are they actually meant to do?
Yeah, you know, those are some great questions, right? You are lacking it's just not as clear-cut as last game, right? For Maryville, last game it was, okay, they're poking. At this game, they've got a really good split push setup with Shady. They've got a lot of wave clear as well that they can just keep get back, or Evan in either side lane, make sure that waves not getting pushed across on the other side, and you know their potential to go into a side lane and help out Niles dive onto Faisal here with the Lee Sin and the Pyke is actually going to be a really lethal duo again to power farm through EGP just in general. And also a little nuance here in the sort of itemizations that we may expect to see is that for Faisal, typically on a Graves, you expect to see the Immortal Shield Bow come through as that sort of bruiser-esque style, but versus a Pyke actually, it's actually really bad to go for Shield Bow because that threshold for when Shield Bow gets activated is the exact timing and the exact window where Shady actually gets his ulti ready and available. So it does borderline nothing for you if the shield gets popped and then you just get Pyke ulted. It's like, great shield that guy. Thank you. Thanks for that one. So potentially see an Eclipse or something like that come through. It's a little bit more well-rounded, at least versus the Pyke. Obviously, there's very real possibility he just goes it anyway, and we'll see that interaction itself.
That would be really fun to see effective HP just melt in front of our eyes, and Spot is something that this game is not going to be lacking. For as much as I was confused about this, I see the dream for Maryville being able to get that strong side top and really make use of the Pyke, and I see the pop-off potential for EGP as well. Neither of these compositions are lacking burst, however, and so something that I think is fair to expect is that the team fights probably won't last all that long.
No, I'm expecting explosive team fights regardless because we've got double reset, or not even double resets. We've got resets on both sides, right? Pyke ulti and Vex ulti both reset on kill, and Vex is a little bit more forgiving than Pyke's, so you know a little handshake there that EGP is going to be more than happy with. But if you're able to get those team fights going and you're able to start off with just one kill for Evil Genius in particular, they're going to be able to snowball roll through you because your composition itself, outside of your Pyke and Lee Sin, your main carries then, you know, the Ori, there's Jace, the Ziggs, not the most mobile of champions. And typically Satchel Charge, yes, it can be saved for that defensive usage, but you might want to use it to try and pick people off, much like we saw happen for Sketch in game number 1. So there's get into the team fights that are going to be fairly entertaining to keep our eyes on. For Maryville and EGP, though, as their sort of compositions as a whole, they kind of want to do, or they don't kind of want to do the opposite things, but they look very in the early stages as though Maryville are going to do one thing and EGP are going to be trying to stop that happening. And I think this is going to be very entertaining because they are obviously, as you say, topside focus. Niles is going to be looking to punish Faisal, and they can use Kind, they can use Shady to do that. Graves typically a very stable, sufficient lane on his own to just be able to survive, sustain, and keep himself alive. So it's going to be entertaining to find and see if he's able to, you know, keep pushing that wave in and deny potential dives, just keep his wave in a good spot as well. Because this matchup for Faisal, I think, is going to be a real test for him.
Yeah, and it has been for 3 games in a row at this point.
Yeah.
Faisal has really been tested this series and has not come up lacking yet. It has never been me looking up at the top side and going, that is what changed this game negatively for EGP. He has been a rock for them, and it has absolutely been what they needed for right now. Everything else has to come together as well, though, and one of the things that I'm really looking at, especially when we think about these supports, is, yeah, I'm excited about Shady. I want to see this Pyke pop off, but at the same time, Nautilus is also going to be terrifying this game.
Yeah, they're level 1ing. Perry, okay, this is huge. He Qs over the wall, he gets vision.
Okay, Kind Jungle saw him. Okay, but the flash, never mind, you just can't move. Kind Jungle, God, he's gone. It's better that he forgets about it, honestly, because that is not feeling good.
Okay, so first blood to the mid lane here, Leo, who had himself the choice here of his blind pick mid laners, goes for the Vex. A little bit of a chance now at redemption, honestly, as he got kind of bodied in the second matchup in the Zoe Victor lane. So if he's got this first blood, a little bit more help in that facet to keep himself up and alive. The ball in the brush right there is actually helping out MU quite significantly, honestly. It's just letting them know, hey, there's still a Nautilus here, and they haven't left your jungle.
Yeah, really keeping his eyes out for Kind as EGPR as well. They know exactly what is going on. Kind jungle is completely spotted, and EGP should be able to stifle him even further. Coming around on the Raptors right now. Faisal is going to keep him from starting this off, and Perry is the one that is coming out on top, completely denying top side away from Kind jungle, putting him in a position where he's not only down a death, but also down a top side, an entire section of his jungle. Perry now with the opportunity to go ahead and make that even more if he crosses directly through the mid lane, and Leo's helping him do that on this Vex while continuing in the bot side. Daption just lands hook after hook.
Yeah, and this is going to be really important for EG because they want to force this bot side in a powerful spot. They know that they're going to have prior up on that top lane, but the important part now, making sure that Kind can't just respond by taking the hook after hook.
This is just ridiculous, but this time finally does get answered back. Sketch does flash away ultimately, so now summonerless on this AD carry with Kind jungle bot side and not able to access his top side entirely. There's really only one place to go, and EGP do have to be careful.
Yeah, I expect he just... I don't even know what his play is here. If he goes into the bot lane, he's just going to get collapsed on. So it's kind of doom and gloom, but you're quite right that gank in the bot lane is looking ever so tasty, but you can see that there's a ward down. It's going to spot him out. He's going to need some creative pathing to get through here, and he's just going to walk it down straight away. No flash.
See if he can get these kills. Daption pretty terribly mispositioned right now after being pulled back by Shady, and kill it will be over to the members of Maryville. However, Kind jungle not actually participating in it doesn't actually solve his own problem.
Now, yes, Daption is a little too far forward, but he actually saves AD carry there. That's such a crucial hook at that point. It's not even that he's just the one that they settle for. Shady wanted to go for Sketch, but there's a hook that comes in at the right time to stop the flash follow. Shady's got that under the E that he's going to go for, and then he flashes behind to finish the hook or finish the connect onto Sketch. But with that hook coming through, stops it dead in its tracks and means that actually can't come to blows. So he sacrifices himself for his ADC, and that every day of the week is worthwhile. Ultimately, should they have got ganked there? There was only really one play for Kind, as you mentioned, and it really didn't, may not have, or should not have happened, but still, good to see that Daption's at least prioritizing the correct player in the bot lane.
Yeah, and Maryville do at least get something off of that as well. They're not too far off, but now moving up to the top side, it's time for them to do what they do best and really start harassing Faisal. Shady's not spotted on vision just yet, and with Niles flashing forward to trade on to Faisal, I suspect he's trying to bait a fight here, but it just isn't working, and Shady is going to have to come up and help him push out this wave, likely not getting the dive that they wanted.
No, and right, remember when we said, okay, Maryville, they're going to try and play toward this top lane. They got themselves a freebie down in the bot lane that they maybe shouldn't have, but overall, they are still looking to punish this top lane. And Faisal, yes, he's down a little bit of farm, but he's done a very good job so far at just keeping himself level pegging with Niles in terms of that CS, and will hopefully look to continue to do the same. I think he's even set himself up for a nice wave position as well that he's just basing to teleport right back to and keep himself set up for that instance. Shady, of course, as we've come to expect, off of the first recall, will always roam. It's just a part of his routine at this point. It's not even recall go bot lane, it's recall avoid bot lane.
I mean, it's why you draft this guy, right? And it's exactly what you get from having him on your team. However, Perry, ever aggressive, is going to try and make his own name present in this top side. Now is pushing up. Kind jungle going to meet us as we go off into the ether. So is the gang, because both junglers spotted each other and decided, you know what, better not.
No, and we're going to have to obviously keep our eyes then on how much Perry can do. Because currently, right, he started off at level 5. He's got himself 3 sides of a jungle, so is incredibly well set up for this game. And honestly, if he can just get himself to level 6, and he needs to start farming those orbs. because as soon as he gets to level, or not even level 6, as soon as he gets to the point where he's got a form, he's already far enough ahead in terms of farm, in terms of the camps that he's got. He's going to be a menace. Kayn, unfortunately, kind of half a champion without a form. So yes, when you're farming up, you're getting all those camps and you've got all those items, but you're still walking in basic Kayn. You want either the Shadow Assassin or what I'd much rather expect it to be the Rast, because even with this tier, there was sort of a development, I suppose, in Season 11 where everybody goes, well, yes, this Blue Kayn build is good. Blue Kayn itself kind of hit or miss. If I go Red Kayn with the Blue Kayn build, maybe we're onto something here.
Boom.
Yeah.
Just absolute explosion, not just of your mind, but of the enemy carries, and that's the really most important thing. Well, of course, we're looking for that. I was sort of thinking of him as a sort of Vayne, like where, you know, a Vayne gets a kill in the early game. We've all had it happen. You're playing top side, you look over at the bottom side, and you're like, oh, well, the enemy Vayne has just gotten a kill, and you know that it's going to be a problem. It isn't technically a problem yet, but really, once we hit that break point later on, once that Bork, or in Kayn's case, first item Gore Drinker likely comes through, we could see some similar levels of brokenness around the rift.
Yeah.
The guy who literally just walks through walls. And that's the really scary thing. Of course, big question for me is how this Lee Sin is going to be able to combat that, because Lee Sin level 6, well, not as flashy in the sense that he doesn't have to deal all the damage, especially from behind, can still very much disrupt plays.
Exactly, and it's going to be a big challenge for Kayn. Obviously got set back very far behind in this game. Has had very little support from the team so far, just because they were trying to, you know, sustain their own lanes, right? They don't want to be sacrificing their own instances just so that Lee Sin can get one camp. Unfortunately, it's just the way that it's been going. So a lot of eyes on Kayn jungle for me this game as well, because we're still in the early stages of it, and I want to see how he tries to get back into this one, because we saw just last game how useless a jungler can look if they get put far behind. And, you know, credit to Perry last game, because he made the job and work still, even though he'd been set back an incredible amount of times, incredible amount of deaths in the early stages. Lee Sin is a champion that's not so easy on. If you can find those miracle hooks, then great, but you're trying to find miracle hooks versus a very good composition of stopping that from you, right? You've got Graves that's got the scatter. Vex personal space means that jumping forward is incredibly dangerous, and then you've got Nautilus as well, is a very good answer to Lee Sin just in general.
And if that weren't enough of a problem, there's the fact that this isn't auto orange that you're going up against on the side of Perry that you played against time and time again. This is adaptation pure and simple from the side of Perry, who hasn't had the advantage that Kayn Jungle has in terms of the scouting. It makes it all the more impressive that Maryville are being put far behind in this early game because of the adaptations that they've had to make. And even in the bot lane, Evan RL and Shady really holding down the fort right now, as expected, of course, on the Ziggs and Pyke respectively, should be able to, I'm going to say, hopefully make some flashy plays happen in our near future.
That's the hope here, and Shady looking into the mid lane to try and get one of those started.
Nice, okay, good hook, and an even better shockwave. That could not have come at a better time, Rue Dude. Literally, as we say it, Shady gets to pop off.
It's pain, dear, because one of the knee-jerk reactions is to flash an Orianna ulti, and I understand, I get the reflex, but you're actually on the right side of the ulti here, and it sounds weird to say, but the ulti sort of displaces you to the other side of where the ball was. So Leo actually could have sort of tanked the ult and then flashed afterwards, and he may have had a better chance at survival. The way it went, he got dragged right on back, didn't quite get to the edge of Shockwave, and ends up going down because of it. So a really good gank in the mid lane. Shady, as you say, looking to get the ball rolling, and Kayn Jungle now only 3 camps behind in his Lee Sin efforts, has still got that top side to go as well. So honestly, not back in this game entirely, but he's in a very good spot to do so.
Yeah, we're getting there. And honestly, if he can keep piggybacking off of other plays, it's just going to get easier and easier as we wait for that parry timing to come through, that transform to really rear its head. That's where things
I have a fact as
change a lot. Yeah, what's up?
About Perry specifically. Now,
I love facts.
on the Proving Grounds pod, product placement here, that you can check out when it was Smacks and Cubby interviewing Perry. He said it was a Kayn one trick. He went by the name Ghostly Cat, and this is actually the first champion he hit Challenger with. So to say that Perry is comfortable on Kayn is a bit of an understatement.
pretty good for him, honestly. It's clearly shown here, and nice little backup there. Thank you for the info. The fact drop, Rudu, definitely does give me a lot more insight as to how on earth this guy's popping off so well in the early game. Again, though, while we do wait for that transform, there is still strength for Maryville. They've got Shady all the way up towards the top side. It couldn't be at a better time. 8 minutes, 30 seconds means that Rift Herald has just recently come up, and I'm sure Maryville won it.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, we don't actually see either of the teams go for this Dragon prior to the Rift Herald timing, so putting a little bit more stock into those plates that you're going to be getting. The Dragon, for the moment, sort of left by the wayside, and we're probably waiting for one of the teams to make a move to generate some tempo where they can take Herald freely for themselves, and then the enemy team have to respond with, well, I guess Dragon is the next best thing. And that's sort of how we tend to see these plays go, where you sacrifice one side of the map and you go, okay, well, what can we get on this side? And 9 times out of 10, the Drake for Herald trade ends up going, at least in the early stages, to the team who prioritize that Herald because of all the gold that it gives. And, you know, maybe we see later on the return on Drake investment when you get towards that soul. That's not going to be the case just yet. It is currently Kind Jungle who started up that Rift Herald, it looks like, on that top side. I think he's on a Scuttle Crab, so we'll have to be careful with how he's monitoring that vision. But for the time being, it should just be that top side that the MU have started to focus on. And as we sort of knew going into it with the draft, this is where they were going to be prioritizing.
Waited things out for long enough, or at least you thought. The rest of EGP is coming up, but as Faisal gets engaged on, he's chunked to half health and is doing a lot right back. Does get kicked in the face, and Kind Jungle does get the kill, but it isn't going to go in for it. Whew, my lord. I gotta say, I would have taken it, but this is the real Lee syndrome. Leo pops up, grabs it too, and should be able to take down Kind Jungle.
There we go.
A double kill picked up for EGP, and that was a flashy answer to what looked like a Rift Herald start and finish from Maryville that didn't quite go through.
Yes, Leo could be breaking the game open there with that pick. EGP rotate all 5 members up to the top side. Leo's able to capitalize on the play. Kind and Niles not quite able to find the pick 2v1 versus Faisal. Once again, displaying incredible weak side prowess there. Evan may well be able to take this turret, but Faisal's here. He's going to be able to break that wave before the next set comes through, and it's going to be a close thing. Maybe just a couple more autos would have done it, but for the time being, that bot turret stands while the Rift Herald gets secured by EG Prodigies, and they're going to be hoping to break open this turret very soon, because otherwise that's going to fall to the Ziggs.
Literally just wave clear bots in the bot lane as well, with the Graves Ziggs lane matchup. I cannot imagine a less interactive lane. It does not get any worse than that for these guys, but hey, they end up picking up plenty of farm, and in the meantime, like you had alluded to, EGP got that first tower and had the gold go into all the right places. Leo getting even further ahead, now has Mythic completed as well as the Sork shoes. This guy can and will blow you up, and it's exactly what you want from a Vex.
Yeah, and what sort of frontline do Maryville have to deal with that? The answer, unfortunately, it's just none. Normally you look to your support, your hook champion, to be that pseudo frontline here. Unfortunately, Shady can't build health, right? Yes, you can build it, but it gets converted into AD. This guy has a flat baseline of HP that he cannot exceed. So that is just not a facet that EGP are going to have to deal with, and it's something that Maryville are going to be more than happy to try and work through. They've now transitioned their strong side, or alleged strong side at this point, down into the bot lane. For EGP, their strong side is in the mid lane. Leo, obviously, with 3 of their 3 kills, is currently the powerhouse for the squad. And honestly, put him in the best position. We've got Drake already live, and you can see Maryville, they're the ones that, as we've started to see be a bit of a constant, have current priority and have set themselves up in the river in lieu here of this Drake being a priority to take.
Constant shove from Evan has made it impossible for EGP to really get enough priority to be comfortable on the bot side, and this just makes the problem even worse. However, as Maryville do rotate into the mid lane, passing up Dragon once again, the timer just gets further and further, and it does not seem like we are going to be getting another sort of Elder Dragon game. This is going to be about fights, pure and simple, and right now, they're ones being set up by Maryville as 4 people walk their way, 5 people walk their way up into the top side. Maryville are getting this top side tier 1.
Yep, and what are they losing on the other side then? They're losing the Dragon and they're giving plates over to Sketch. We saw him on the Aphelios in game number 2. He looked like the shining star of this EGP squad, even though they did lose that game. Faisal has been able to stay safe. Oh no,
God.
Cast a curse. Okay, he's fine. has been able to stay safe on this top side. Losing gracefully is something we always love to see as the top laner who's getting very little resources. And the question really is, is this going to be worthwhile for Maryville? They're splitting plates between their two solo laners, and Sketch is getting unfiltered gold in the bot lane. So we'll have to wait and see where these investments end up paying off later on. Because right now, it's just you're making your play, you're making your moves, you're setting up for the late game, and we have to see what comes home to roost a bit later on.
If you can make this Sketch against the world, you already know you've done this once, right? You've seen the Aphelios win con and been able to shut it down, and that seems to be what Maryville are trying to do right now, accruing as much gold for the team as possible and sort of letting Aphelios do his own thing. But it is a dangerous, dangerous game, as you've already illustrated, and right now it is just getting even worse as Sketch has finally had the chance to catch up to Evan, who's been shoving waves into him over and over, crashes a wave over in bot side, and now is going to get the chance to reset on his own terms. Perry still waiting for his big impact into the game from that early game that he set up so well. We haven't really seen nearly as much as I think we could have from the evil genius Prodigies.
No, and he's gone for this Prowler's Claw, which is incredibly telling here of what style of play he's going to be opting into. It's not that Gore Drinker that we'd alluded to. There's a Mana Moon in the works at the very least here. So this is going to be Perry looking to snowball, looking to find kills. As we say, still needs to find those orbs. He's still currently base Kane, and is obviously going to be looking to change that about as swiftly as possible. And with the first strike as well, he's looking to farm champions for the gold. And with the CS, he's currently been doing the opposite and been farming gold off the camps.
I'm wondering, where did he go back and get that first assist? Because it could be that he's just waiting on form, and we're going to see it very late with the relatively low action, at least on his side of things. Perry is not set up in the best way to become a mid-game force, or at least for right now, and until that transform comes in, it really isn't going to change. Maryville have the opportunity to play as if the map is theirs for right now, because they've equalized just fine using Evan RL around the map, getting Kind Jungle back into things, and even as Perry jumps forward, it's really not that scary yet.
Yeah, and the assist coming from the level 1 play, so it's been fairly stagnant since then, all told. They went for that level 1 invade and found the kill there. And you can see what the looks of trying to wave clear. Oh, okay.
We're killing Evan
He's
RL,
dead.
I guess, as we all jump on him. He goes down, and that looks simple enough. Finally, knockup does land onto Shady, and by the time it does, two of his teammates have already met their end, with Kind Jungle trying to get out. Looks like he's going to be able to, but Perry gets hooked over the wall and says, that's where Kind Jungle is. Looks for these kills, and doesn't look like he's going to be able to come out ahead with them. Nice assassination, though, started from Leo on Evan RL is really the thing that warped that fight. The guy is 5-1 on Vex for a very good reason.
Yeah, I mean, we can go back to the last game. How many kills have EGP got? How many kills has this time Leo got? It's a one-man show so far from these plays, and Leo currently doing a very good job finding the engages, using that ulti. This is that issue of not really having a frontline, is that it doesn't really matter who Leo hits with his ult. He can probably one-shot them, and the more gold he starts to pick up. Unfortunately, there's no Dark Seal to really accelerate that snowball, but he's got Shadow Flame in the works right now, so when he comes home and finds that one in his back pocket, he is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of literally anybody on Maryville. Absolutely
Terrifying. I think it's like the one guy that we really, really have to watch out for. Sketch! He'll scale up, he'll get insured, and Perry, he's going to be a relatively predictable frontliner, right?
Once farm
he's on
champions,
top of you, you'll die.
once farm turrets.
Yeah. But Leo, he's that X factor. He's always going to be able to pop off in the team fights, and as we know, he's going to be reliably able to assassinate somebody. And the nice thing about Vex is that she can kind of be anywhere. Let's take a look at this again.
I mean, you get hit by the ulti, and it's unfortunately it's doomed, and that's about it. There was a massive Infernal right there as well, that sort of set up Maryville to get absolutely blasted there in that instance, and the Shadow Surge actually was the lethal damage that ended up taking down Get Back. So there's a lot to be scared of here if you're Maryville, because your range comes exclusively from Jason Ziggs. Shady trying to step up to this team. That's going to be very, very scary, because he misstepped by just a second. Daption hits a hook and Shady dies.
No, this guy does not survive for even a second, and that's the really scary thing, because you can say that about any singular member of Maryville. Well, of course, we've got all these win cons stacking up. On the side of Maryville, it really does rely on a little bit more side lane power than they've got right now. Niles has been really quiet this game, honestly. Yes, he's farmed up and he's got a 30 CS lead over the opposition, but realistically, this side lane isn't being broken open. Evan RL is not going to be able to consistently hold down the mid lane because of exactly what we just saw, and instead, it's EGP that have the run of things.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up Niles here, because I don't remember who said it, but it always just made me chuckle. It's that no matter how irrelevant a Jace has been put behind or how little they've done in an early game, at a certain point, Jace does damage. And that's just a standalone statement. You know, regardless, those shock blasts are going to hurt. When Mirror Mana gets completed and he potentially hits Cyrilda's as his third item, that's sort of the peak where you don't tend to have your armor built up as a potential squishy member just yet. So we're waiting to see Niles group up with the team and find those pokes that we know that Jace is so renowned for. But right now it's EGP that are setting themselves up for the siege, and unfortunately, sieging against the Sigs we know is fairly difficult, so let's see how much they can get with this one.
Well, let's see if Getback gets to see it. As it looks like he will not. Perry picks him up in the jungle, and now is when you really start to sweat. If you're walking through without vision, that's where Perry is at his deadliest. And with EGP having both mid lane towers, vision is something that they are not going to be running short on. We talk about the map control that mid towers give all the time. Think about how much just fell into the hands of EGP in that moment, and Perry's even gone for blue for him, so that gets scarier.
It really does. Doubling down then. Firesol, is he going to be okay? He's fine.
Oh my god, Kind Jungle doesn't quite get the Q. Instead, Daption has come around, and now we get the Uno reverse card. And oh my lord, Leo gets to do it again. This time, getting a personal space and flashing out as well just makes it seem cheap. Nobody on EGP loses their lives, and instead, it is a tower and 2 players that fall on the side of Maryville.
Matt, I know this game has been all about Leo, but look at this replay, right? And you can see why. The knock-up hits, really good to see that the follow-through happens, and I was looking for stopwatch. I was like, okay, so he dies and gets traded, and then he personal space flashes. I was like, oh, he's not even dead. But somebody I want to highlight here to draw your attention to, again, Firesol this game. He's not been flashy. He's not done anything particularly amazing in these team fights, but just then, again, was the perfect example of what his entire game has been like. He's been getting gooned 4 or 5 times this game, hasn't died at all, hasn't given over any excess gold, and this time round actually baits in Maryville to get some kills for his team. Has been playing an incredibly good safe side top, and I think that it just needs to be called out and shouted out for him.
And he's been doing it the entire series. Like, Faisal is the rock for this squad right now, and it's very clear why EGP have picked him up this season. Faisal and Sketch moving in. Might just be time for Inhibitor Tower to go down, but like you said, Ziggs is causing problems, and Evan RL, in his own way, has been Maryville's rock this time around, and if anything, is the thing that'll get them through to late game just because of his wave clear.
And you can see now that Perry has adopted the role of split push side laner. You know, he's taking the bot side jungle as and when it respawns, but those bot waves have been going all but exclusively into Perry's hands, and he's leaps and bounds ahead of Kind Jungle. I want to draw your attention to A, the CS discrepancy, and B, the level discrepancy between our 2 junglers right now. Kind currently 4 levels behind, as well as the over 100 CS. I wonder if we could toggle the goal just to see by quite how much. Oh my word.
Almost eating that hook. Actually could have killed him, but Daption is the one that's going in, and a massive ult as well. Just destroys Maryville University as Evan RL is the last one left alive. That is quickly corrected, and one of the swiftest aces I've ever seen comes through for EGP.
Perry just dominates Maryville in the mid lane. There's nothing more to say. He hops over a wall. Daption starts it off. Perry knocks it down like a couple of bowling pins. He just rolls through the entirety of Maryville. They're going to get the Baron as a prize. Leo's able to find a solo kill in the bot lane. EGP are in resounding lead right now. Baron, 7.5k, 10 kill lead. Everything is looking their way.
It really is everything. Absolutely terrifying. If that wasn't enough, they're 40 seconds away from putting themselves on Soul Point as well. And we're going to get a look at what happened in the bot side. Well, all that was going down because Leo decided to take matters into his own hands and find a kill onto Niles with that last auto coming through from the minion. And that's what ultimately made the ace so perfect, is that it was happening everywhere.
Yeah, I wonder if we could get a replay of just what happened with Perry, just to sort of showcase how far ahead this guy is. But there's probably going to be a lot of action. The Baron has gone down, and we don't want to miss out on how EGP look to close out this game. And, you know, we tend to see, you know, we're seeing double CS between the junglers. What we don't often see is nearly double the level. You know, outside of level 1 to 2, Shady is level 8, Perry is level 15.
It is wild. I am terrified. I wouldn't walk up to him. And honestly, I don't even know if staying in the base will save you. We're about to find out, though, is, well, it doesn't. Evan RL, he finds that out firsthand, and unfortunately, isn't going to be able to clear waves anymore, as well as he's done this entire game. This game is now Perry's.
Yeah, he's just going to walk around. Anybody steps up. Oh, I fancy killing you now. My Prowler's close off cooldown. I think so. Mid inhibitor gonna fall, top inhibitor has no answer from Maryville, and just Perry zoning by literally being in the base is gonna give not one, not two, potentially now a third inhibitor turret is going to fall. We'll see if the inhibit itself goes and falls straight after. They still don't have Evan yet, so this is a 4v5 down 12k gold. I don't think so.
No real way for Maryville to engage. Instead, it is EGP that are spoiled for choice. Jumping forward, Leo ends up setting up 2 quick kills for the squad and finishes off that third inhibitor in the meantime. Evil Geniuses had a rough game too. Maryville looked like they could have taken it, but game 3 has been the complete reverse. Maryville have been absolutely torn apart by Leo, by Perry, by Faisal, Sketch, Dapsh, and they have worked together to send EGP to the playoffs.
What a game. Holy, and that is just that's what you get for being a Kane 1 trick that get yourself to Challenger and whipping it out in a game 3. That is beautiful. I love that from Perry, honestly, to say, okay, guys, it's time. We're 1-1. We win, we go through. We lose, we go home. Give me the Kane, all right? It's beautiful, and I'm so happy that Perry did it, and not just that, but that it performed as well, right? Like, there was just several instances where you were just looking at this Kane and going, is he going to be able to get anything going in this game? You know, he's still base Kane with, you know, he's level 10 right now. He's farmed up a Storm, but what's he going to be able to do with it? And then all of a sudden, he hits blue Kane, flicks a switch, and all of a sudden, he's just the beast of Summoner's Rift.
He was waiting. He knew something that honestly, Rudude, I just didn't. I could not have known what was waiting for us. But the thing that I do know is that we've got an awesome analyst desk waiting for us on the other side of a very quick break. So that's the first series gone down. If you wait just a little while longer, you're not just gonna get that killer analyst desk, but another banger of a series after this. We'll see you in a few.
the fuck? Sure.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Unified Proving Ground Circuit. We are back here with an interview with the mid laner for Maryville, Get Back. Unfortunately, this is an interview after a loss, but you guys had a very hard-fought series, especially Game 2 stomp, and then the Game 1, y'all had a very, very strong way. How was the comms going throughout such a crazy series like this?
I think the first game, people were over-amped, and then in the second game, people kind of got brought back down to earth a little bit because we lost. I don't even recall it completely, but I feel like we were up and then we threw. And I think that brought people back down to earth, and people were really honed in on Game 2, and then Game 3, you know, different players, a completely different environment in general. But it was definitely a bit up and down. So.
As it can be, but I mean, you did have a fantastic game number 2. Your Zoe, man. That thing was a nightmare fuel. I saw that and I was just like, this is exactly what terrifies me when I lock in solo queue and I see a Zoe on the other side. The sleepy trouble bubbles, man. You don't miss, do you?
You know what? Everyone on that team, I noticed they all dodge the same way. So I think like halfway through the game, I realized that, and then the mid 80 carry dodged the same way every single time, and so I just kept firing the bubble in the same spot, and it got really easy to hit them. So, yeah, they weren't swapping up the dodges, so I felt pretty good that game. It's kind of one of those champs where if you're feeling it, you're feeling it, and if you're not feeling it, then it's terrible. So
you gotta feel the vibe, right? It's gotta be just right. With everything that's been going on, unfortunately, guys, this does mean elimination for Maryville.
Mm-hmm.
However, we have seen quite a nice ride for Maryville. A lot of people have given high praise throughout this. How has it felt going into this tournament, going in through the qualifier? How are you guys feeling throughout?
So it's kind of like a conflicting feelings because from the staff's perspective, the main goal for this tournament, they didn't really care if we won or lost because, for example, when we played the first day, we'd never scrimmed yet. We started scrimming like after the first stage. So just before our match, whoever we versed, where I played, just before we versed Dinker's team, I think the day before was our first scrim set because everyone had just came around. So we kind of came in blank. The whole point was just to get some games, get used to each other. They, haven't decided who they think of the main roster yet, so they're just flipping people around and giving everyone a run as well. So in all of our series, we played. We mixed and matched whether we won or lost. Like, we won the second game and mixed and matched for the third game, for example. We subbed out jungle AD. So there's, like, the mixture of, man, it like, no one who's a competitor wants to lose, and that feels like shit. But at the same time, it's like, they've tried to drill into us the main point of this. They didn't really care if we were going to lose, it's about improving. And so they get way more annoyed if we don't execute on the things we've been learning more than actually winning or losing. Like, if we lose a game and you feel like we've taken something from it, they don't care. But if we win a game and just messed around and just stomped people and didn't really accomplish anything, that's on the south end worse. So it's a weird, conflicting feeling. It's definitely felt worse after losses, but I think we should have won, so it's a shame.
Well, I know this isn't the last we're going to see of Maryville, but I mean, you guys did improve throughout this. This has been a squad that's been constantly improving. I want to ask you, Get Back, before we flip away back to our desk, what words do you have for anybody who's cheering Maryville on their way, the collegiate titans out there?
I don't know, anyone who's supporting, thank you, but I think that there's not a lot of supporters. I'm only new here, but what I've gathered is a lot of people, because they normally do win collegiate, I think there's a lot of people who like to lose more, so we'll just get better and upset those people more, I guess. is the is the moral of the story. So
Look, sometimes you gotta take if the villain mental's handed to
Yeah.
you. You know, you just rot the coat, right?
I've never been the villains, but I feel like this is the first time I've come somewhere and felt like we're the villains. So
I hear you. Well, we'll have to see if you guys will be able to come back with a vengeance. We'll be looking forward to seeing that. With that being said, thank you, Get Back, for the interview. We are going to send it back over to our desk.
yeah, no problem. Thank you.
And lads, we are back. And EGP, they were able to close out game number 3. They found themselves on some comfort and found a very convincing game number 3 victory here. How are y'all feeling? We're coming in this, and we had a couple moments, especially towards the end of the game, where we were just like, oh gosh, that damage.
Kane, good. Nice.
Yeah. At least from the losers interview, it's nice to see Maryville's perspective. I guess they said, they're going into the games wins or losses, and it seems like they haven't been scrimming much, so it won't be the end of them. Like, there's more qualifiers, we'll definitely see more of them, and yeah, they'll definitely improve over time. But for EGP, I think it was like 16-3. It was like a 22-minute game. It was like as good as a game as you'd want it to be, you know.
Yeah.
I think just straight out the gate, they set up for level 1. They clearly had a game plan, and it was quite a jungle lead towards the end of the game.
This play is so nuts, man. For Kind Jungle, you know, you see the whole team in your face. You get Flash Nautilus hooked.
Yeah,
it's just such a
I
dreamer.
think he was trying to ward hop. Like, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. It looked like his character was going to red to like ward hop over, and Nautilus just flashed and said nope, and he had to press his flash key as well, but he did not. And then afterwards, they loop around and they force him out of his chickens as well. So Lee Sin's early game start was completely nullified and just very tragic, honestly. And then honestly, they had a good kill in the bot lane. They ended up honestly, props to Shady. I think he was playing that lane really well early game on the Pike. They got a kill back, but it just sadly wasn't enough. And
Yeah.
on this next replay, I forgot what was the next replay is just.
It's the Herald play, man.
the
it's the
Herald
Herald play.
Yeah, I mean, when Ziggs is in the game, Herald is like the objective. And
Yeah.
if you look from here, like, they're just at Dragon and Herald's at 4K. In my opinion, the Dragon or the Herald's gone if they focus it, and instead they opt in for a turn when the Herald's at 2.6K, and Ori was kind of zoning Vex, and it just kind of goes Fiesta-y, and you know,
Yeah.
your Ziggs is bottom. Like, you don't have to do anything. Like, in the worst case here, in my opinion, is literally de-leash the Herald. Like, in the worst case, just get off the Herald, and your Ziggs is farming free plays. Like, he was pinging the bot turret, and instead it just becomes a double kill for Vex. They lose Herald, and Ziggs doesn't even get to complete this bot turret here on this play. It actually gets to live, just barely. So, I would have liked to see, I mean, obviously it's like new people coming in, so the subs came in, so maybe there was like a lack of communication or coordination, but I see why the Jace jumped on the Graves, you know, like get him off, create some space, but I think the full commit, especially going like all the way to almost the turret, I mean, obviously they're going to look at that VOD and be like, oh, why'd we do that? That was so silly. We had the Herald, or our Ziggs was farming for free, so I mean, it's just tragic, you know.
I really hate that play. That was such a blunder. I like you said, they already know. So us saying it's not going to help
Yeah.
them. But yeah, they really just
Yeah.
need to stick to what they were already doing before.
Yeah,
This was-
and it just gets worse from there. Then it's like Lee Sin, like they were forced to group. They were doing turret trades from top to bottom, and then it was just Lee Sin was not able to farm his camps, man. He was down like 100 CS at one point,
Yeah.
and then this next replay here, we just have like just the amount of control EG had over time. They were able to set up the objective first. Kane's just a very slippery champ here, you know, like maybe they could look for one shots, but the Vex is just sitting in the bush, and look, like they're 4 champions, they can't even cross in. Like Ori's using her ball to check, and then just one tap and just flash in Aphelios. They just press everything, and just everyone gets obliterated. This Vex ult almost catches Pyke, but it's kind of like that's all they needed. They lose their mid turret off this, and they're playing with Ziggs Orianna. And I was saying about this comp is Nautilus has a free hook on every single champion on that team, and when you lose your mid turret as well on top of that, it becomes like a very hard position in the game to come back from, because any hook is a kill. Kane is just, you guys know what Kane does. He just goes around in the terrain, and then it's an open map, and it's just free pick'ems for EGP at that point.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way, and I mean, I want to really highlight. We've talked a lot about the Kane being able to pick people apart. This Vets from Leo was clean inside this game. It's exactly the pick they needed. Like, I was a big fan of this, Matt. We were also talking, like, we were just popping off. Every single one of us were popping off screen, right, with the damage that was coming through.
It was some really sick gameplay. I like the whole thing here from Evil Geniuses. This is a much better look from them, and like Perry looked a lot more comfortable playing a farming champion as well. Kane's not the only one. Like, yes, he used to be a Kane one trick on the ranked ladder, but there are other farming champions that I feel like would slot into his comfort a lot easier. And I really liked this gameplay from him quite a lot. He was definitely the star of the show for Game 3. And yeah, big congratulations to EG for making it to playoffs.
And before we go too terribly far, let's go to the caster prediction screen real quick, because I do want to see this as we do get to see these matchups. Look at all these people here. Look at it. There was 3 believers in EG here.
I told you, man. Orbital and RMC are the big brains for today. They got the first 2 right. I think they're going to get the last 2 right as well.
Now, I'll have to keep our eyes on it. That's a possible storyline. They could have that clean sweep coming their way, and it could be a possibility. With that being said, Osama, that does mean it is the end of our time here with you here on our desk. Thank you so much for coming in here a second time here, as you've been a fantastic guest. Like make sure you go and follow him on @HooksLol at Twitter, man. Yeah, go follow this man. What are you up to, man? Are you grinding out solo queue or anything like that?
I've been playing some solo queue a little bit on the side, not too competitively right now. Maybe I'll try to hit a high rank challenger, but it's been a pleasure. This is my second time here. Maybe you guys will see more of me. Just pleasurable experience. Hopefully you guys liked my insight. Hopefully I enjoyed myself here. So hope everyone else did as well.
2 thumbs up from me.
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed my time here. I learn a lot every time Osama's here. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to send it away from our desk, but we have an interview with Perry, which we are about to flip on over to. So, with that being said, I'll hop over to see Perry. Hey there, Perry. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great.
I bet you are, after what was a disgusting Kane game there, man. You were unevolved for so long, but it still felt oppressive to watch. How was that game?
I mean, 20-minute Kane form does not feel the greatest. It doesn't look the greatest, but it works the same way. I'm still farming camps. I'm up, 60 CS. It still works the same way. Then I get form, and I'm just running the game from there. So.
I mean, you had a fantastic game. It wasn't even just game number 3. Your game number 1 on Xin Zhao, we were joking about how you were just looking for the next challenger every single time. Like, you were 1v1ing anybody. There was points and times where you were just straight up 1v9, it felt like. How was it? How was the comms like for you? Were you excited? How were you popping off?
It definitely was a different type of playstyle, I guess. Like on Xin Zhao, I normally help my team more, but that game I felt like, this is my time. I have the lead, I have the kills, and I'm going to just show what I can do. And there were some fights where I went a little too deep, I went a little too hard, but overall, I mean, I felt very powerful that game for sure.
I hear you. I mean, yeah, you had two very powerful games. Game number 2 was a little bit of a downhill one for you. You played the J4, but unfortunately got caught, as Cubby said, the Gromp is the new Scuttle Crab. So you kind of got caught out there, lost the Gromp, gave the thumbs up emote. How were things inside that game?
I mean, so from the start, the pathing was not the greatest. I didn't make the best choice. Wasted some time trying to look for a level 2 gank. Then I used a smite to waste even more time on my Krugs, so I don't have smite for Grump. And then I missed my EQ. So that's where things just kind of went down. And, you know, we tried to come back that game, but it was a really, really hard comp to play against. So.
Yeah, and I gotta ask, Sketch inside of game number 2 too. We were talking about it on the desk off air. Like Sketch was out there looking to fight as well. Was that a big reason? Was Sketch a big part of that?
I mean, throughout the game we were trying to split onto a side, get him as much gold as we can. That's pretty much all we could do, and he was calling for it. We were trying to make some good fights around him, and it did happen eventually. So we got some good fights going on there.
Well, your next opponent is 100 Thieves next. How are you feeling going into what a lot of people will look at as a big favorite inside this tournament?
I mean, 100 next is quite dominant. They look like a very, very strong team. But if we can find them, you know, not focus, you know, like we never know what happens. Like I feel like we've been scrimming enough to where we're working pretty well as a team, and we can make some upsets happen. I definitely think it's possible to take them down. So.
Absolutely. And with that being said, any words you have for people that are looking at this squad now, especially after game number 3 being a huge showcase of your team's talents?
I think there's just a lot more to look forward to throughout the season. This is the first tournament, right? Like a lot of people didn't see us as the favorite for this match even, and you know we just have a lot to put out there throughout the split. So.
Proving people wrong. Proved the majority of the caster predictions wrong, just saying. With that being said, Perry, thank you so much for coming on in for this interview. With that being said, we are going to throw over to a break. When we come back, we are going to be going into our second series, which is going to be IMT AOE, taking on Dare. So make sure you do not touch that browser.